Good afternoon or good morning to everyone who is joining us today, if you happen to be on the West Coast, and welcome to today's webinar entitled SAP S/4HANA, A Day in the Life of a Finance User. This webinar is the final part of our three-part webinar series hosted by Illumity. My name is Rihanna Thompson, and I will be your moderator for today, and we just have a few announcements before we begin today's presentation. This webinar is designed to be interactive between you and our presenter. So if you have any questions during the broadcast, feel free to type them out. However, in the interest of time, we will try to answer all questions during our Q&A session. Hopefully, we'll have time to get to everyone. Now, I'd like to introduce our presenter, Ludo Bebiak. Ludo has been with Illumity for almost to the date 2 years, and he is a solution architect. With that being said, Ludo, I'm handing it over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Rihanna, for the introduction. I hope that you can see my screen now, so I can go ahead with the presentation. As Rihanna said, this will be about the finance in Fiori and S/4HANA, and we decided, or we have prepared this presentation for two typical users in finance, one for accounts payable clerk and another for accounts receivable clerk. Before I start though, I'd like to just introduce briefly myself. I'm a solution architect at Illumity. I've been working with SAP Finance for 25 years or so, and I have experience with various industries, scopes, with different kinds of finance topics, general ledger, AP, AR, banking, costing, profitability analysis, and integration with all kinds of logistics modules. I'm very excited about the new SAP technologies, Fiori, new reporting approach, the CDS views, machine learning, predictive analytics even. I had the opportunity to play with that a little bit. It's a new field. It's going to be excited probably a few more years. And in my personal life, I'm blessed with a bunch of grandchildren, and I love spending time with them very much. So that's me. Let's go then to the presentation. It's a day in the life, right? So what does such an accounts payable clerk do, like every day? Can imagine, you know, probably much better than I do in your companies. What is a daily routine for an AP clerk? He or she has to monitor supplier invoices, monitor down payment requests. Is some suppliers actually require money down? They need to monitor supplier open items. What is overdue? Should it have been paid? Should I actually see what kind of discount can I get if I pay early? All these little things have to be monitored properly. And then, of course, one of the biggest things for a clerk in accounts payable is to manage payment runs. Of course, this presentation is in Fiori. This is S/4HANA and the Fiori as the user interface. But you know these functions from your daily life. It's business as usual in a way, just using newer and more modern technologies. For today's presentation, we have the following steps for AP. It's the start of the day. Then we will display supplier list, balances, line items, create a simple invoice, see how we can block or unblock invoices, create a down payment request, manage automatic payments, review overdue payables, display cash discount utilization, and show aging analysis for accounts payable. I believe this is a typical set of activities for a clerk. Of course, like company, it can differ from company to company based on size, based on structure of the company, based on authorizations, based on various internal rules that actually these clerks have to abide by. So this is a typical set. Of course, SAP, as you know it, is very flexible, and these steps can be divided or combined into various roles for various users. As a first screen in AP, I will show you just this slide as a last slide for the accounts payable. SAP has been developing not only apps replacing standard GUI transactions as we know them from SAP GUI from the older ECC versions, but they've been doing actually a great job in developing brand new, net new apps in various areas. And I'm just showing now this in accounts payable. It's a accounts payable overview. As you can see, I'll show it to you actually in real life soon. You can have clerks or supervisors or managers actually authorized to see these accounts payable cards at the very beginning of the day, so you know what to attend to first, what you need to do first, because that's usually the case. It's not always the same routine, right? Today it's Monday, I have to do this. Tuesday I run checks. All the days I have to monitor open items. I have to monitor what is overdue, what did we miss, how come here we have blocked invoices and all that. So these routines vary from day to day based on some priorities or some urgencies. What we recommend also from Illumity, like as a methodology almost, is the exception-based approach. What is the first thing I have to attend? What is in red? What do I need to do first? So what I will show you will be a typical list of activities in accounts payable, but these can be, as I'm saying, flexibly arranged to different groups of activities. With this said, let me go to the system. So I'll go directly to Fiori, to our internal demo system. And as you can see, we're looking at the Fiori Launchpad, where I have accounts payables, these groups. For those who are familiar with Fiori, you know that you can arrange these Fiori tiles flexibly in various groups. First, you would get the standard set of tiles based on the roles that you have in the company, but then every single user can arrange these tiles according to her or his needs, right? So if I want to split all these, I don't know, 17 files into 2 groups because I know that I will be doing this or this, I can do it easily myself. So first, when I look at that at the beginning of the day, I see some tiles with numbers, right? This is new in Fiori. I'm sure many of you have seen it before. They are basically some tiles or KPI tiles, some of them analytical tiles, where you can see at the first glance immediately, okay, so what is my cash discount utilization? It looks good here, it's 76%. Or what is the aging analysis here, right? Or what is the number of missing or unapplied cash for some other activities? So you can arrange your tiles in Fiori also according to the exception-based approach. If you want to see something first in the morning, you can get the tile somewhere here in the beginning and you see immediately what is the most important piece of your work for the day. In the presentation, I showed you the accounts payable overview, right? And you can see this tile here. Maybe you want to arrange it actually and move it back here at the beginning, actually, at the very front. So it's always here, and it always greets you in the morning, so you can look at that and see what kind of numbers I'll see with the particular selection. Here, I have to do the currency if I have to. It depends also on my preferences. If I don't want any preferred currency, I leave it blank and I always have to do at least this first entry. But then if I'm good with the filter, I click on the go and I start getting all these cards popping up with numbers, graphs, and tables. If I want to see more, I just close this filter area and I see more. And I can start looking, okay, so what do I want to see? What do I need to see? How many parked invoices do I have? Do I actually take care for one company or more company codes, right? Do I do only work for certain groups or suppliers, or just one supplier, or all suppliers for the company code? Or do I do for suppliers only for a specific country? I can always make in the filter here, close the filter, and pay attention to the numbers here. All right? So these cards, these particular areas here, they are called cards in this overview. They can be flexibly arranged as well. They can be removed if it depends on the authorization, or if you want it based on some other pre-recorded or pre-selected selection criteria. All that can be flexibly arranged, and then when you get to work and you look at these numbers, maybe this is too many. You don't really need to see all these cards here. You only want to see maybe 5 of them. This can be all arranged pretty easily, and your account payable overview at the beginning of the day will give you the overview you need. Next on my list was display supplier list. If you do it every day, or not every day, but if you look for a supplier, it's a new app which is relatively straightforward as well. As you can imagine, it's a supplier list, right? So you just enter a particular criteria, maybe company code, maybe country. If not, nothing, just click on go here. Close the filter area so you have a bigger screen to look at, and you run your supplier list. Right? If you want to see particular more master data, more details on the master data, you see important things here, and you can arrange it actually even here. You can create your own layout or settings that you will bring more data as you need to, either for columns, sorts, filter, groups. It's very similar to what we know from ECC, from GUI. It's just different navigation, different clicking, different fields, different buttons. But from the functional point of view, it is very, very similar to what we know. It's the business as usual, almost, just nicer and probably more integrated. I'll show you what I mean by that. So, supplier list, right? I found my supplier. If I cannot find my supplier, I can actually arrange like, okay, so what is the number? I have the number predefined here in my presentation, so I can type the number right here. But you can use other search modes. And then when I run it here, oh, I have this supplier right here. If I click here, I will get either more master data. So I click again on the supplier number, and here I can go for all details in the supplier master data, not only from the financial point of view, but if you see here across the board, you can see purchasing spend. So it's not only master data really, it's also some high-level KPIs that you can review at the fingertips, right? So you have all that available. Or if I click here, you can see other activities, right? You can go from here directly, clear some outgoing payments. If you think that actually, okay, I wanted to find this vendor, I need to go directly to these activities from here. This is what I meant by more integrated nature of these apps. They go much more seamlessly from one app to another. Whereas before, as you remember, you had to go back, you found your vendor, you copy and paste, you go to another transaction, another T-code, transaction code, and then you start over almost. Here, you can go horizontally between apps. Next, I'd like to show you supplier balances. If I go here, oh, it can happen that some of these selection criteria are incorrect. In this case, it's fiscal year 00. That doesn't sound right. You can find out actually later that it's actually somewhere in the settings. If you go to settings, you can see easily and select or define your own default settings. And here we go. Fiscal year was actually set to 4 zeros instead of 2020, or you remove it, right? Because if you set it to something, it's gonna be 2020, and you don't if you don't change it, next year it's going to be 2020 always. So if I have changed it, let me just make sure I have changed it. Yeah, it's gone here, so I saved it. And when I come to the display supplier balances, now the system gives me actually the current fiscal year automatically, so I don't have any error. I can rely that I'm getting the current information as I need to. Again, this is a transaction you probably know. It's balances for supplier, and you can click on any particular credit or debit amount just to see open items, the corresponding open items or cleared items that actually make up that balance. And from here, you can even go again, like I said, horizontally. If I go here for particular, I can go here and create or block or unblock for payment. If I know exactly what I'm doing, I don't need to go back and go to another app. I can do it, these functions, directly from here. The next would be the supplier line items, which is, if you know the transaction codes from ECC FBL1M, this is something similar, but it's in Fiori. It's not just the copy or real GUI transaction. It's a net new Fiori transaction with a similar functionality, of course. So I'm having this, I need to do some selection criteria here, and I will use the same supplier. And if I go, okay, I have the company code I wanted. I want to see only open items. I want to see them open as of today. And I only want to see normal items. As you know, you can have special GL transactions. You can have parked items or noted items or even customer items. If the vendor and the customer are related, it's the one business, one company. So here I have all these open items for this particular vendor, for this particular company code displayed. And if I click on a particular item, is a journal entry, and I click on that journal entry number again, it might take a few seconds. I get the line items here, right? So this is the item 1 of 2, and I can see all details posted to this item. So it's posting key 31 invoice, it's a supplier, the reconciliation GL account is this, amounts, taxes, everything is here. If I want to see the offsetting item, I can click here, navigate through these arrows here. So here it's a GRIR account, right? It's a posting key and all that. So you can see all these details here as needed. All right, let me go back. Here, so now I want to create a new supplier invoice. I have reviewed all balances or open items. I have reviewed KPIs that I needed to. Now I know that I need to create an invoice, new invoice for the supplier. For simplicity, I will be only using a financial invoice, not a PO invoice. But now, in ECC, we had 2 kinds of transactions, right? One was for PO-based invoices, and one was for financial invoices only. If you remember Miro or FB6, these are 2 common choices in ECC. Here, we have one app, new supplier invoice, and you can do both of these invoices easily in the same app. So let me make the necessary selections here. I do it with today's date. Invoicing party would be this supplier. I can do the reference is usually the supplier invoice number. Invoice amount would be, let's say, $1,000. Company code is predefined. I have the company code in my settings because I usually do the business with for my company code 1710, so I can have it predefined and I will always have it pre-populated. So here, if I scroll down, I did the header here and I go down. Here I could do the PO references, right, like based on the PO, but I go further and I do a GL line item. So I will do, as I said, a simple financial invoice. So I will click on this plus sign and I will add the offsetting line item. So here the offsetting GL account would be 651 zeros. Amount would be 1,000 again. But here, because I'm posting to P&L, I definitely need to probably do cost center or another cost object as required, and also possibly taxes, right? If it's tax relevant, so I will do that here and here, tax jurisdiction. Okay, and here the account cost center would be 171.01 101. Okay. I can always check the entries, so I can actually see whether everything has been entered properly. And ideally, I would get this message: invoice was successfully checked. So I can then simulate, as you know, it's the old function. So you simulate before posting. You want to see whether everything is really okay. All numbers, accounts, cost centers, GL accounts, everything is fine. I'll see it here. I can still always double click and see more details, but for now it's okay. I see the accounts, the cost center. I'm okay. And here I can post, or I can go back and I can park it. I can even hold it. So save as completed. I have more questions, more options here, but I want to post it now. So post. All right. Do you want to create? No, I don't want to create a new invoice, so I want to go out. Now I want to see what is overdue payables. Let's say that I want to see what is some sort of overview now. So I go to overdue payables as the next step. Here, this is a analytical app which gives me overviews by predefined selection criteria and in a predefined structure. Here, let me just change it to supplier by supplier, critical and critical. As I do it, I can always click on a particular supplier and see if I want to open it actually in manage supply line items. So from here, I can go directly to the manage supply line items, and I would see all these line items again for this supplier that I selected. In company code, I can always add 1710, and as I go here. So for here, I see that I don't have any items for that supplier in this company. So I probably selected the wrong supplier. I can go back and I can repeat it actually, and I do that. Let me open the filter here. And if I do supplier, I will, okay, too many zeros. And now when I do it now, I can open it in the Manage Supply Line Items, and I go from here. And I will see my items here. And from here, again, I showed you before that, right? I can select particular line items, and I can block or unblock for payment directly from here. Or if I click on the journal entry and I want to see display process flow, I can see actually how this invoice was posted, what is the history of the invoice. Here I can see that actually there was no purchasing, it's a financial invoice, so I go from here and it's free for payment. So this process flow will give me more visibility on the document flow. I don't remember anything like that for vendor invoices actually in ACC. That's quite new. Let me go back, and then let's go to manage down payments. As I mentioned at the beginning, one of the daily tasks for AP Clerks is to manage supplier down payment requests, right? So if I have such a request, I come here and I create a new request. So I click on create here. I do the journal entry date, transaction, everything else is okay here. So I do the supplier the same as before, 497, and the amount for the down payment is, let's say, $100. I just open the item here because I need to do one more thing here, baseline date. It's very similar to what we know from ECC. It's just a different navigation, as I keep saying. And once it's done, I can simulate it. It's a statistical item, right? It's just a request for down payment, so it's not a real posting. It's only one line item here, and I can post it here, so it will make it to the posting payment run when I run payments next time. So I have posted the request, and now I can go to manage automatic payments. That's a bigger part of the day when I have to run payment runs. So I create a new payment run. Here, if I select it, I could see existing payment runs, but now I know that I want to create a new payment run, so I do it right here. I do the date and I do the identification, as you've done it probably many times, and I do create. And here I do the parameter for the payment run. Excuse me. So I do this selection criteria. I don't want to limit the payment run only for one particular vendor. I don't want to run it across the board. Next payment run, let's say it's, I don't know, in only in 2 months. Payment method would be checks. What else do I need to do? Posting date documents entered up to, company code, payment date. All right, if I have all this, I save it. Excuse me. And once I have the payment parameters created, I can schedule it. I can schedule either proposal or the payment. Usually we do proposals and payments, right? We do it in 2 steps. So I schedule proposal, schedule immediately, and it's going to create it. It's running. And here I have proposal processed in this tab. I have one DITL3. And now I can actually even go and directly revise the payment proposal here. So I'm paying 4,500. But usually it would be probably, it depends on the authorization, on the selection, separation of duties, right? Whether the same clerk would do the review and approval, or it would be only reviewing it, everything is okay, I can go back and actually have someone else review the payment. So we have the payment run done. If I go here, I could also see the application log. If I do open, and I can see application log here. So here you would see if you're missing something. Let's say that something didn't go well. You see the application log in some detail because application log was part of the selection. Okay, then the next step would be for someone else actually to review the payment proposal. So I can come here or another user revise payment proposals, and I do the same. So, or I run the, I need to find the payment run that actually has been created. So I need to select the run date, the proper time frame. If I know the identification, of course, it would help. I need to do the company code, and then I run it, go, and I have exactly this what I need here. And I can review it, and actually I can do similar transactions. I can block particular items. If I come here, I can do the payments. The payment, I can see all invoices that are to be paid in this payment run. So I can, some of them actually I can block for payment directly from here, right? Or I can reallocate them somewhere else, or I can actually look at the document itself, if I want to see more details, what kind of invoice it was that I want to pay. But everything is okay, let's say, so I can come back. Review is okay, and then user authorized to finish the payment would be actually coming back to the payment run itself, and then release it for payment. So if I come here, again, manage automatic payments, and I find my payment run, which has been reviewed, and I see it here, payment proposal DITL3. I can select it now, and I can schedule the payment. I'm scheduling the payment because it's been reviewed, it's sitting, and the proposal will be processed, and now I have two processed payments. I did one yesterday, so here this DITL3 for today. This is my payment, and if I open it again, I can see the application log and see whatever has happened. So see, everything is here. If I want to check something, or if there was an error or something didn't go well, I can always come back and see what happened. So we're at the bottom of the hour. I need to, okay, I'll show you a few more steps, like few more apps. So we've done the basic overview, right? We've done the supplier list, the balances, line items. Then I created a simple invoice. Then I ran the payment, review the payment, schedule the proposal and the payment itself. I showed you the functions. All of them, all these functions are really very similar to what you know from ECC. Here is just, I like it. To me, it's more elegant, more modern. It's more integrated with other apps. So if I want to jump somewhere else without going back and to another app, I can do it from one app almost seamlessly, horizontally to another app. These apps that we saw before with these numbers, it's again very useful, quick apps that shows you particular KPIs, right? In this case, cash discount utilization. You can see immediately this is by timeline, but you can switch the view and see it by company code or by supplier or by payment terms, right? So for this supplier, I always take cash discount. I'm good. For this supplier, for whatever reason, I don't take cash discount, probably because I don't pay really early. I take time, probably there are some disputes or something, so I cannot pay on time. But, or here you can analyze by payment terms. You go here and see, okay, so what are the payment terms actually that allow me to run payments most efficiently with respect to cash discount utilization. It looks like this is the best one. The other ones are not statistically, because I'm using them for particular vendors or for particular business circumstances. So I can see if it makes sense then to review my payment terms and actually see whether it is actually making sense for me to think about the cash discount utilization, whether it's really substantial amount of money, if it makes sense, if I do have enough cash to run all these payments and all that, right? It's a useful app to have and to review periodically. Or I can do forecast, what is available for the future. So it's a similar idea. I have all these views available here by company code or supplier, by payment terms. This is going forward, right? What is due when? And I can actually then see, okay, I want to pay attention to this supplier because for this supplier, I can get this and this amount of cash discount. So this is, and you can see this is the color coding. Something is available and this is already expired, so it's too late anyway. So I would probably focus on something that is still available as a cash discount. And the last app I wanted to show you in AP was aging analysis. It's not probably as important for AP as it is for AR, but still, there is a nice app to show you actually the breakdown by buckets. And if you can see, this is the key date, and you have the same amount of buckets in the past and in the future. So you can see actually what how items have been aging. Here you can do the filter, selection criteria, close it, make the screen bigger, and change the structure, change the view by company code or currency or supplier group, and analyze as needed. So this is all I wanted to show you for accounts payable. Now let me go back to my deck quickly, and I go to accounts receivable. It's the same idea, right? It's a day in the life for an AR clerk. What do we do when? We, in AR, clerks have to monitor customer open items. It's about cash collection. What payments can we, what cash can we apply? What is open, what can we do? We receive money, we have the information from the bank, we need to apply to open items, customer open items. What is a little new, it's not new completely in the SAP functionality, but here you can seamlessly do also dispute and promises to pay. Directly, I'll show you quickly how it can be done and what you can get. It's basically more about the communication with the customer, right? If you have a dispute, something is badly overdue, and you want to talk and clarify what's the matter. And then, of course, monitor customer credit. So these 4 groups of functionalities or topics for AR Clerk, we will be looking at today. And in more detail, these are the steps that I will show you. It's the start of the day again, customer line items, then post incoming payments, clearing payments, create a promise to pay or correspondence or dispute, and then review disputes and promises. There are apps where we can see all disputes or promises in one screen, credit limits, utilization, or some overdue receivables. Similarly to what we saw in the accounts payable overview, there is an overview app for accounts receivable. Very same idea, with multiple cards for users authorized to do such checks on reviews. So let me go back to the system. Here I have a slightly different screen because here I am logged in as a AR clerk. If I look here, this is the AR clerk. Right before it was an AP clerk. And as you can see, it's a similar idea, right? I have my Fiori tiles arranged by the need, by what I'm using most. And here, some of these tiles, you have these dots actually trying to retrieve most up-to-date data, right? Because these are analytical apps getting the data in real time, so I can review them actually and work with real-time data immediately as they become available. Again, so this is the accounts receivable overview. I can move it here if I want to, and if I open it, I would see something similar to what I showed you on the slide. It's taking some time. Or not. Let me come back one more time. Let me continue with the customer line items. I might have some connection issues now. Interesting that it was working for the other user. So let me sign out and sign in. As you will see, the functionality for AR tasks is very similar to what we know, again, from another SAP version, whether it's displaying open items or whether it's displaying balances or applying cash, or even if you ran dunning or other functionalities, create correspondence, customer statement, then it's just the user experience with Fiori. That's really what matters now. And I really, I can say that 5 years ago, when we started with Fiori, it was not as exciting as it's now. It was really slow and it wasn't working well. Now it's really very practical, very powerful. It works very well. So I am really recommending, from the practical experience, I understand that people are reluctant to change. It's, what we knew is easy just to use. Nobody wants to change very much. You just want to get work done. But in this case, Fiori is really helping. The user experience and the smoothness of the executing all these tasks is very high. If something is not behaving like in this case, I'm not sure what the issue is. Rihanna, we may actually fall back to questions. It's actually 1:45, so we can get back to.
I agree. Thank you, Ludo, for running through the accounts payable role. Unfortunately, guys, we can't seem to be able to show you some of the tasks we can do within the accounts receivable role, but we do have pre-recorded sessions. So hopefully we'll be able to share some more content with you at a later time. But in the interest of time, let's just swap into the Q&A session. If you do have any questions, feel free to begin typing them in now. I know that we've had a few already come in, so we'll begin with what we have so far. And the first question set up for you right now, Ludo, is, let me just jump straight to it. So our first question is from Apurva. What are the major differences between the 1809 and 1909 finance processes?
So it's a good question, right? The SAP is working on these versions and improving tiles all the time. The difference is in 1909 they are trying to do this the cross-app integration as much as possible. They try to improve the consistency of the buttons, right? You could see probably when I was navigating through the AP apps that sometimes I had to hit save up on the screen. Sometimes I had to hit it down. It's still there, but they are trying to actually make it more consistent all the time. From a functionality point of view, in 1909, it's not very big difference. For example, the accounts payable overview, these cards that I showed you, what I'm actually showing now for accounts receivable, it's available also in 1809. So 1809 is, from the functional point of view, a bigger jump from 1709. 1909 is more the user experience consolidation or reconciliation, if you will. That's the main difference what I see.
Okay, this next question is from Adrian. Can we do both GUI and Fiori? GUI for tasks we do today and Fiori for net new apps?
That's a good question. Technically, yes. Technically, we can do that, but from the practical point of view, I would not recommend it. In Fiori, you can do also GUI tiles, right? There are some transactions where I would show you that these are actually GUI transactions in nature. So it looks like it's a Fiori tile, but when you click at that, it actually brings you back to GUI, and all of a sudden you see the same selection screen. You see everything as you know it, because it's a real GUI transaction. So I would say don't do it. If you have a newer SAP or we're thinking about migrating to S/4HANA, I think it's the best is to move to Fiori as well. Yes, it's a bigger change, but definitely I'm sure it's worth it.
Okay, next question is, how is the authorization managed for Fiori app? Does it refer to back-end system authorizations? Can we have unique authorizations for the front-end system? different from the back end?
So the authorization is more complex. This is another layer of the system, right? So yes, from the authorization point of view, it's still relying on the back-end authorization. So whatever you are authorized in the back-end, in GUI, in our case, let's say, it has to be maintained, and it's used in Fiori as well. But in Fiori, it has to be also maintained another layer of authorization, mostly from the presentation point of view. So the arranging of tiles that I showed you before, right? Like what tiles you have here, what tiles you are allowed to see, it depends really on the authorization from the Fiori point of view. But to answer your question simply, it is actually relying on the backend authorization. Let me just expand a little bit on the previous question. If I go to Add Finder, I just wanted to show you, I didn't try it before, so bear with me. I just wanted to show you that actually I have access, from Fiori, I have access directly to the SAP menu. You can see here on the screen that you have a catalog, which is the Fiori layer, truly Fiori layer definition or who is authorized to what, to the SAP menu, right? So if I go to SAP menu, and I have it all well defined, and I can even try if let's say I want what, FB60, I mentioned that before, right? And if I'm authorized as an AP clerk, I can come to FB60, right? So I just wanted to prove to you that you can use even standard classic SAP GUI transactions from Fiori. So if you don't want to jump for whatever reason to these net new Fiori apps, you can create your Fiori tiles for your GUI transactions and use them as such. Make sense? So that's just to want to prove to you that, or encourage you that the change to the user experience, user interface, Fiori, is really, it makes sense. It doesn't really make sense to do certain things in Fiori and some in GUI. For more technical people, there will be always GUI available. For example, for me as a consultant, I will need GUI at least for some time because all configuration or most configuration is still available only through GUI. So if I make configuration changes, I have to go to GUI. I cannot do it easily from Fiori. There are not many configuration tiles in Fiori. So Fiori is a application user interface, not necessarily the consulting interface.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next question.
Yep. So we got one last question for today. Do the aging analysis tiles use embedded analytics for reporting? Do we need to create specific CDS views in order to use the analytical app?
So SAP provides in standard plenty of CDS views. If you are technically if you have any experience, for example, with ABAP query in ECC, you could actually do many things with the existing CDS views yourself. They are existing. I can show it to you. Let me just. If I go to query browser, you can have a query browser directly available for you, and you can see how many CDS views are available in standard SAP. You find your perfect CDS view, and you can use it in most cases. Of course, there can be situations when you need to adjust an existing CDS view or create a new one, but that would be more technical. But in most cases, as I know that, as in my experience, you don't really need any new CDS views. So all or most of them are there already.
Okay, that was the last question we had for today. I wanted to also thank everyone for attending today's webinar. As you know, this was part 3 of our SAP S/4HANA A Day in the Life webinar series. If you'd like to see some of the other previous parts, feel free to use the links in the registration link to connect back to the main landing page to see part 1, where we explored the experience of a plant maintenance user, and part 2, where we were looking at procurement users. With that being said, I want to thank Ludo again for giving today's presentation. It was very insightful. Unfortunately, today we weren't able to explore the accounts receivable role, but I will definitely share with everyone who attended and registered for today additional information on what that experience looks like. If you have any additional questions from today's presentation or would like to provide us with some feedback from today's presentation, feel free to send that over using the contact information available attached to your webinar invite. With that being said, thank you guys again for attending today's webcast, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you all. Thank you for your participation. Thank you, Rihanna.
This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everyone. As promised, we will continue now with the accounts receivable. I apologize again for the inconvenience for having the technical glitch. As presented on the deck, with the accounts receivable, we can also start the day in the life with the overview. If the user in accounts receivable is authorized to use this overview, it may be actually the best way to start the day. This overview can be arranged and configured relatively easily with particular cards pertaining to the clerk's job description. So if the user is only allowed or should see for his or her work just the top 10 debtors or cash collection tracker or unapplied cash, these cards can be selected and the rest can be actually removed from this overview. Just showing this whole overview as probably the good dashboard for users or supervisors in the accounts receivable area. In a more particular way, I will continue with something that we have seen or experienced in the previous versions of SAP, and this is managing customer line items. If you have used SAP before, you very likely know the transaction FBL5N, where you can see customer open items and maintain and also explore and navigate what you need to know. It's probably one of the best tools in ECC for AR. And this is basically the same tool or very similar tool, just in the Fiori design. So if I go here, let me present this to you. If I go to and enter my customer number, then company code, then open items, you see all these filters are very familiar to you from the GUI version. It's just arranged differently. So I want normal items, I want this key date, I can still see both cleared or all items as before, but usually you would want to see open items only. You click on go, and then you can actually start exploring these open items, right? This is the indicator whether the item is open, and of course, I selected open items, so I only see open items. Here, if you click here, you not only can select the document display or the line items in the document in more detail. Here you can see line 1, line 2, line 3, and actually with many more details than before. But if you click on the item from here, you can actually traverse to particular other app functionality, right? So you can even display in interest run in which this item was involved, or account determination for bank transfer if it's relevant, or you see all these additional integrated links that you can use smoothly, seamlessly. You don't need to leave the transaction. You can go directly from here to see other details from these line items. I go back now. Then, in order to work with open items in AR, you may want to actually see that some of these analytical tiles have these numbers, right? So these have particular meaning, of course, relevant for tiles, for particular tiles. In this case, if I'm talking about incoming payments, this is a number of unapplied payments. So it tells me immediately, if I'm responsible for applying cash, that I have still 9 open payments not assigned to any invoice. It's not number of open items, it's particularly number of open payments. If I run this without any customer, I see 7 of them here, and that's because here I have a different filter. I have filter specifying particular company code. If I remove this, then if I run again, I have my 9 open payments as indicated on the tile on the launchpad. So if I go back and now I've seen my open payments, then I want to probably process a new incoming payment and then get back if I need to apply something or work with open items and payments together, clear them with open items. So let's assume that these 9 payments cannot be really easily applied to any invoice. We are in the middle of some investigation, communicating with customers. So we proceed with incoming payments. This is also quite familiar to users, SAP users, as a transaction of F-28, incoming payment, posting incoming payments. And similarly, you would actually enter first the dates, it's the document date, this is the value date, then the bank GL account, then the amount of the payment, let's say 52. I know that I have some open items in, so let's just assume that we're getting payment in the amount of $52. And then let's see again that we have 171, the customer that I've been using for our demo. And I'm going to try to find an invoice to which I can apply the payment. If I click on propose items, I basically open up all these items here in the area from which I can search and select particular items to clear against the payment. Let's assume that I couldn't find it. It's not here. So because I want to move to another payment, I want to post it on account. In the payment, I don't have any invoice number, so I post it on account. So I have the customer number here, and I want to post the $52 on account. When I do that, I hit enter, my balance changes to 0, and I can post the payment on account. Then let's assume that later I actually received an email or an information that I know to what open item I can assign that payment. So I posted a payment, and now I know, wow, okay, so this is actually invoice number this and this. Here I'm still having this 9, but it's a matter of refreshing the tile because I posted a payment on account. So I should actually receive this 10 items.
This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everyone. As promised, I'd like to finish the accounts receivable portion. I apologize again for the glitch, the technical glitch we experienced during our live demo. So let's continue with the accounts receivable. Here I have the accounts receivable overview that can be the starting point for the day in the life of a clerk in the accounts receivable. As discussed with the accounts payable, it's a similar concept. You have quite a few cards for AR, and depending on the role of the AR clerk, the responsibilities and the job description, that overview can be particularly arranged and tailored to his or her particular needs. So that can be actually very well be the starting point for a day in the life of an AR clerk. If we go to more particular items, apps, then I will show you the customer line items. It's a similar app to what we are used to from SAP ECC as FBL5N transaction code. And it's basically showing the open items or cleared items or all items for particular customers or company codes or with additional filters. So if I select my customer here, company code is there. I decided to see open items first. Then I go open the key date and the normal items and I click go. So I see the open items here. Basically the same idea, just a different design, different navigation, different filters, but the idea is very much the same. I can click from here and see the document here line by line. So when I start with the first line, it's the invoice line, the customer line, the reconciliation GL account. Then I come to the revenue line for credit entry. And then, of course, the third line would usually be, as expected, the tax posting for sales tax. From here, I'm not only allowed to go to the document, I can go and do particular other transactions or activities. I can click on this and you can see all the other functions available here. I can block or unblock it for dunning, create a correspondence directly for particular items I select. I can edit line items if I want to. I can block or unblock it for payment if they are actually items for payment. If there is something that I need to pay, like some credit memos on the customer side. And if I click on the item here, you might see another set of additional transactions that I can go directly to. So I don't need to leave this transaction, the line items, customer line items, but I can go directly to the additional functionalities, apps. For another step, I'd like to present this clear incoming payments. Here, the number says about the unapplied payments. So it tells me that I have 9 unapplied payments on my plate. This number on the tile can be actually arranged so it suits my particular selection. Here, if I don't make any selection and I remove even the company code, I go and actually get the 9 unapplied payments. If I knew the invoice number or additional information, I can come here and actually start clearing open items. I can actually find open items and clear it here. Let's leave it for now. I would go to post incoming payments. This is very similar to transaction F-28 from the ECC environment. So I would go and do the header. I do the document date, value date, bank account, GL account, and then amount, let's say $52, customer number 171, the same I had before. And since I don't have any particular information for which the payment I have here, I'll try to find the invoice like this. So I click on propose items and I try to find this by invoice number or by amount. And let's assume that I haven't been able to find any suitable open item. So I decided to post in on account. I have to go and process additional payments, so I just leave it here. So I do 52 here, and then I hit enter. I have the customer number here. Balance is 0, so I post. I simulate it first if I want to see what's happening, and I post. So journal entry was saved successfully. I can proceed to another payment or to another part of the presentation. So here, because I just made another payment, I should see this number of unapplied payments changing to 10. So let me just post it by, if I just do it by the next day. So I have actually 11. So because I'm recording this a little later in the evening, I have to actually change the posted by because the server, the time of the server is actually different. So if I come here, the filter here on the tile and filter on the selection criteria here is different. So you see that it will be important actually to tweak these tiles properly and then apply them correctly so it doesn't confuse the user. So I'm going to find this unapplied payment that I just made 2 minutes ago. I will find the $52 I did. So if I click on this arrow here, I will try to find the invoice. And let's assume that in the meantime, actually, it came to my attention that I know the invoice number. So I see, oh, here it is. This is my invoice number. I move it to the clear area. The balance now is 0. I can post. I can display what I have posted, or I can go back to payment list, but I can be rest assured that actually what I just processed one unapplied payment. Right, so this is actually changing because I applied the payment today and I applied the payment that I did earlier, so the filters are now matching and you can see how the number is changing automatically. If I go back to posting incoming payments, I'd like to show you another ways of posting and other ways, or if you have short payments. So if I make another, the same header, the same GL account number, amount, let's say I have now $30, customer would be the same. And here, let's say that I know the invoice number with this. So if I go propose items, I'd like to see it immediately here in this clearing area. So I don't need to look for it here because if I know the number easily, I can just type it here without any clicking here and there. Remember, in F-28, you had to identify that you wanted to do the payment reference either as a reference or the document number or something else. Here you just enter what you know, and it can come or it can find immediately and propose it for clearing, for applying cash. But I'm short 22 by $22, right? So I have two options. I can do the partial payment or I can do residual payment. Partial payment I can do by clicking this payment amount here. So if I do it here, I will be able to post it now. The balance is 0, and it will become the partial payment. So it means that both the original invoice and this partial payment would stay open items, and I would have to wait for another payment or another explanation how to clear the open items. But if I don't want that, I have another option. Let's say that I again use this payment reference and I have the same item here, but now I'm going to use the residual payment. So I want to clear the original invoice and I want to create a new open item for this customer in 2 items, in 2 parts with 2 reason codes. So I want to have one for $12 and one for $10. So I do this. Here I open a new item. So one would be 10 and the original would change to 12 as the residual. So if I do this and I hit enter here, you see that the original 22, the original overall 22 residual item would actually split between 12 and 10 with two different reason codes. If I close it and I simulate it, now the balance is 0, of course. I have 4 items. One is clearing the original invoice, the other is the payment, and these 2 will become new open items for $12 and $10 respectively. So I can post. All right, so this is what I have posted. If I went back to the customer open items, I would be able to see open items for this customer as expected. So this is about open items, how integrated displaying open items with other functionalities it is, and how to process manually incoming payments and clearing payments with open invoices. This is, of course, in case if you use electronic bank statement processing, you would process and apply cash or payments automatically. But there is always a case when you have to do it manually, right? There is always something not matching or some missing information that you have to do it manually. So this is exactly what it is. And as you can see also, the functionalities, all these actions are basically the same like what you know from the ECC era. It just differently arranged, differently integrated. I must say I like it better. Maybe there is something harder to find, like if you're used to do partial payments in a certain way, then it would be probably a little bit cumbersome to do it the new way, but it's just a matter of time. Then when I have applied all payments or clarified unapplied payments and clear items, then I can proceed to receivables. In AR, it's now seamlessly integrated with the dispute management and other corresponding functions. So if I come here, I will show you this easily, like in this processing receivables. So first I identify my customer. Then when I click here, I can have this, let me get back. I wanted a slightly different customer for this. just to show you particular functionality. So I click here, I get to the customer, and here I have some master data details, and here I have invoices, cleared items if I have any, and then I have disputes and promises to pay. From here, I can actually process further functions very easily. First, if you have invoices, and if you see this PDF icon here, you can click here and you can see immediately the invoice, how the customer was billed. That's actually something it wasn't, I don't even remember if it's possible in ECC this easy to come to the invoice itself. It was relatively easy to get back to the original billing document, that's true, but not to the picture of the invoice itself. So that's quite something new. From here, you can do directly you can create correspondence. So if you want to do this, you can just select your correspondence type. This is what we've known before. It's not new. The correspondence types, it's basically the same as before. So I select it. It's just requiring the correspondence. Remember, it was another separate step. You had to require the correspondence and then process few more selection criteria. Here, it's much more straightforward. You just do, okay, so what was the last statement? Let's say it was in January 23rd, and now I want this current statement as of today, and I can go and directly see the preview of the customer statement. This is a standard SAP form, but you can imagine that can be easily adjusted as it's usually done on projects according to your particular company needs. And then directly from here, you can actually send emails or print if hard copy is required. So this is, to me, is also much more streamlined, and I don't remember such direct functionality in ECC. On top of all this, you can create either promises to pay or disputes if needed. If you want to create a promise, you do it here. You enter some additional names, who made a promise to pay. You can make some notes, attach an email or another document, say okay, and the promise will be created. So if I go to existing promises, you will see that I have 4 promises, and here are these promises here. It's all open promises for now, and nothing has been paid yet. And if I double click on here, okay, you can withdraw promise. So it's not a promise anymore. Probably it didn't happen, or something happened that actually the promise is no more valid. But this gives you actually direct opportunity to maintain, to see what's been promised, what you can expect for your future collection. Another option is to make a dispute. So if you have something, okay, let me get back to invoices. And if I go here and I want to make a dispute, so I would come here again, and oh, for this item, for this invoice, I do have a dispute already. So that's not right. I need to go and see something else. So let's see this one. Create dispute. So I would come here and create a dispute. I don't want to create a new one. Just it's a simple process with some dates and reasons and priorities and so on. And I come do OK and create a new dispute. And I can see all disputes here then. Disputes, they are with their statuses and priorities, so it's different. It's something that actually there is a misunderstanding or disagreement on something, and you can double click here and you load the dispute and change the status or add additional notes or so, or you can void the dispute case because it's been clarified and the payment arrived or something, or you issued a credit memo because the invoice was a duplicate or it was something not right. So all this can be handled directly here, and you have a good visibility directly for the whole customer here. So this is this processing receivables, and for the overall promises to pay or dispute cases, you have analytical apps showing you actually the whole overview, not only for a particular customer, but for you can do it by collection specialists. So if you are responsible for particular collection or customer group, you can do it like this. And here you see the bar charts, but you can easily change it to a table. So if you prefer the table view, it's right here. Or you can select another. If you want to see top 10, you can do it again here and tabular view. If you want to export to spreadsheet, it's immediately at your fingertips. Similarly, you can see also the dispute cases. It's a similar idea. Here you see this is actually by customer. It's not a bar chart originally, so it's by customer, but you can see either case ID or by customer. So if I go to 17101, this one, and if I go here, I see my 4 dispute cases that I saw before, and I can hide the filter bar if I had more, so I can see more items on the screen. If I go, the last app I wanted to show you was the Overdue Receivables. It's a similar analytical app where you can see aging, in this case, in this particular interval of 30 days for each. So you can see is actually overdue days below 1, from 1 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, and over 90. You can select particular company codes or customers. You can do it by company code in the table view, or you can do it by top 10 customers for top 10 customers. This is the bar chart, but still these two icons give you the opportunity to switch easily to the table view. Here it's probably more visible, more intuitive, because this is overdue and this is within particular due periods. So if you can investigate further, you can do it by clicking on the bar and actually continue with more detailed, granular investigation. So these are the basic apps in the accounts receivable area. As I was saying, for AP, these tiles can be arranged accordingly for your group of AR clerks. If you have 2 or if you have 17, depending on how large your AR is, how separated the duties are, what is the volume of payments or open items, and all this will drive how the tiles are arranged, how the selection criteria for the tiles are. So they all show only the numbers here on the tiles pertaining to particular users in question. So they don't need to speculate whether this is a number for the whole company code or for the user or for a group of customers. It can be nicely tailored for particular AR clerks. With this, I would like to conclude this. I hope that you have enjoyed the presentation. And again, if you have any questions, please contact Rihanna or myself. We will be more than happy to give you more details or answer more your questions. Thank you, and talk to you soon.